I think Shedeur is in the lead. So do you. But it really seems like this is a two-man quarterback competition. Each of Watson and Shedeur had 16 attempted passes. It's almost like volume of reps is the most important thing to watch. And Dylan Gabriel only had 6.
Yeah,
so Dylan Gabriel is not in this quarterback competition.
The coach said he was, but he said that to be nice. Dylan Gabriel is a backup. There are people asking whether Dylan Gabriel will be here on Sunday after draft weekend, that he might be able to go somewhere where somebody, but he's going to be a backup here. I think it is a two-person race. I think it is between Deshaun and Shedeur, and I'm going to tell you something. Deshaun looked pretty good,
2020, Deshaun Watson does not play in the National Football League anymore, guys. And the events of the week would tell you that it's even more pointless to play Deshaun Watson than it's been for all these months that we've been talking about it. So that more than anything is the most notable shift. When we talk about big throws and highlight throws and this and that, Mike, we don't know. I'm looking at the reps. I'm looking at who's in the front line, who's in the huddle. So it was
about nothing. I don't think about anything. If it's not words or anything, at this point, it can't do anything to me. I know, the God put the ability and the power within me to not even think about nobody else's comments, not care. It is what it is. I spoke with him. He said, nah, bro, that wasn't. He said, that wasn't. He told me on the plane. He came up. He was like, nah, bro, that wasn't at you. I see how they trying to spin.
All right, well, we don't necessarily think Dylan's a fit. And we added this other guy that we feel like is more of a fit. And we want him to be part of the competition or whatever. We need to trade Dylan Gabriel or get rid of Dylan Gabriel in some capacity. If they do that, if they somehow manage to move Dylan Gabriel.
Player. Shedeur's really come on. I thought he had a really good day today. I thought Deshaun had a good day today. And so I thought both of those guys continue to compete. And you saw today, we've been alternating.
Threw only 8 passes to receivers in New England. So the question is, are you uncomfortable throwing downfield?
No, I think there's just a mixture of things that have to come together to make that happen. That's myself included.
Do you think Gabriel was able to see you guys down the field?
Yes.
I think Dylan Gabriel is going to be gone. Maybe even the Atlanta Falcons. Kevin Stefanski, he's got no qualms with the smaller quarterback. He loved Dylan Gabriel last year.
There is a version of this story where nobody remembers anything, where a few social media posts get lost in the scroll, where preseason quarterback debates fade the moment the regular season begins, and where everyone involved moves forward without the internet keeping score. That version does not exist in the NFL. It especially does not exist in Cleveland, where fans have spent 2 decades storing every quarterback decision, every promise, and every prediction in a mental filing cabinet that never loses power. This is the story of a quarterback competition that turned completely upside down. It is about what happens when the people surrounding a player let confidence tip over into public confrontation. And it is about a 5th-round rookie who decided the best answer to all the noise was simply to keep getting better. Before we break this down, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are a Sports Zone USA, and we cover the stories behind the stories, the drama, the receipts, and everything the highlight reels leave out. Now let's get into it. To understand how we arrived here, you have to go back to the 2025 NFL Draft. Cleveland selected quarterback Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round. 2 full rounds later, Shedeur Sanders, one of the most talked-about quarterbacks leading up to draft night, was still sitting there, available in the 5th round. That fall became national news. Sanders had spent years under the spotlight, playing for his father's program, dealing with constant media attention, and entering the draft as one of the more polarizing prospects in recent memory. Some analysts loved him. Others questioned whether the attention surrounding his family had inflated his stock beyond what the tape actually supported. The teams picking ahead of Cleveland apparently landed on the skeptical side, because Sanders kept sliding while other quarterbacks came off the board. Cleveland eventually grabbed him, but by then the hierarchy seemed obvious to most observers. Gabriel was the 3rd-round investment. Sanders was the late-round project. Draft position matters in the NFL, both for playing time and for organizational patience. Gabriel received first-team reps, first crack at the starting job, and the first extended opportunity when veteran Joe Flacco was moved out of the lineup in Week 5. The Browns gave Gabriel 6 starts to prove he could be their answer at quarterback. His numbers told a mixed story. He completed just under 60% of his passes, threw for around 930 yards, added 7 touchdowns against only 2 interceptions, and finished that stretch with a single win in 6 starts. He was not a disaster by any stretch, but he was not making the case clearly enough to shut down the competition. In Cleveland, leaving the door cracked open is the same as leaving it wide open. Somebody will always walk through. That somebody turned out to be Shedeur Sanders. Injury opens the door. When Gabriel suffered a concussion against the Baltimore Ravens in November, Sanders finally got his shot. After months of working behind the starter, the 5th-round rookie stepped into one of the most scrutinized quarterback situations in football. Every snap was going to be picked apart. Every mistake was going to be treated as evidence. Every good play was going to fuel another round of debate about how a player with his background ever fell to the 5th round. Sanders finished the season with 7 starts, 1,400 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. The turnovers were a real problem. He held the ball too long in certain situations, forced throws into tight coverage, and made the kinds of unforced errors that veteran defenses are specifically designed to punish. Nobody was pretending those mistakes were acceptable. But the tape also showed something Cleveland fans had not seen in a while from a young quarterback: toughness, presence, the willingness to take a hit, get back up, and run the next play without flinching. And beyond the personality, there were genuine flashes of arm talent and decision-making that suggested the mistakes were correctable with time and repetition. Meanwhile, something else was happening off the field that would eventually become a bigger part of the story than anyone expected. Dylan Gabriel's fiancée, Zoe Caswell, became a visible figure in the quarterback debate during this stretch. And that visibility created problems that are still echoing heading into the following season. When Sanders was starting and struggling, Caswell was active online. She pushed back against fans questioning Gabriel's absence from the lineup, challenged the football knowledge of anyone who suggested Sanders deserved more support, and made the argument that people inside the Cleveland organization actually preferred Gabriel over the rookie, who was currently taking snaps. That framing created an immediate credibility issue. Telling a passionate NFL fanbase that they have no right to discuss football is essentially a guarantee that they will discuss it louder and remember every word. The moment that generated the most reaction came after a Cleveland loss to San Francisco, a game Sanders started. Caswell posted a TikTok that included a caption reading, "Browns lost. What's new?" paired with a laughing emoji. Her later explanation was that the post was harmless humor, nothing more than frustrated sarcasm about a struggling team. But timing changes meaning. That caption did not appear after any of the losses during Gabriel's 1-win, 5-loss stretch as the starter. There were no laughing captions about Cleveland's struggles while Gabriel was the one under center. The sarcasm surfaced publicly right after Sanders had a rough game. Browns fans noticed. NFL fans noticed. The internet noticed. Comments immediately argued that the joke read as a shot at Sanders wrapped in plausible deniability. Caswell could always claim she was just joking about the Browns in general. But the comment section had already made its own decision about the intention, and nothing posted afterward fully reversed that interpretation. Gabriel himself added another memorable line to the timeline. When asked about the quarterback competition during the preseason, he said the following, and this quote followed him for months. He talked about entertainers and competitors, suggesting there is a difference between the two and that his focus was entirely on competing. He never said Sanders' name. He could argue that he was simply describing his own mindset. But in Cleveland, where fans already knew Sanders had arrived with a famous last name, national endorsement deals, a large following, and cameras tracking his every move, the word entertainer was not going to be read as a neutral observation. It was heard as a comment about his teammate, and that interpretation spread faster than any clarification could travel. Sanders never responded. He did not post anything. He did not answer questions about Gabriel or Caswell. He did not acknowledge the social media noise at all. He simply kept practicing and kept developing, which turned out to be the most effective move he could have made. When one person is posting and the other refuses to react, fans tend to form their own conclusions about who actually has their priorities in order. The offseason brought a complete reset for Cleveland's quarterback room. Kevin Stefanski was gone. The previous coaching staff that had managed the competition, made the roster decisions, and ultimately never fully committed to any single quarterback was replaced. Todd Monken came in as the new head coach, and his arrival changed the dynamics of the competition in a significant way. Monken had no history with any of these players. He did not draft Gabriel in the 3rd round. He was not in the building when Sanders fell to the 5th round. He did not create the old depth chart, and he had no reputation to protect based on previous decisions. He walked into Cleveland with a blank evaluation sheet and started judging every quarterback based entirely on what he was seeing in meetings, workouts, and practice periods. That kind of clean slate evaluation is either an opportunity or a threat, depending on which side of the competition a player is standing on. For Gabriel, the early signs were not encouraging. Reports from Cleveland's offseason program painted a picture of a quarterback who was not receiving the kind of workload you would expect from someone competing for a starting job. One practice report noted Gabriel receiving only 3 competitive snaps during a team period. Not 3 series, not 3 drives, 3 individual reps. In an NFL quarterback competition, reps are essentially currency. They are how coaches evaluate timing, communication, accuracy, decision-making, and command of the system. If a player is receiving 3 snaps while others are receiving significantly more, the depth chart is already telling a story before anyone publicly announces a decision. That same report described one particular throw from Gabriel as the most off-target pass that reporter had personally witnessed during a Browns OTA practice. The throw reportedly missed the intended receiver by something close to 25 yards, and the moment reportedly drew laughter from people watching nearby. Every quarterback throws a poor ball occasionally. Even elite veterans lose control of a throw during casual practice settings. But when a player has only a handful of competitive opportunities to make an impression, one dramatically errant throw becomes a much larger percentage of his visible sample. The contrast with what Monken was saying publicly about Sanders made the situation look even more uneven. Monken spoke to reporters about Sanders and specifically highlighted his growth in areas that coaches care about far more than highlight throws or raw arm strength. He pointed to Sanders' improved processing of coverages, his ability to release the ball more quickly, and his deeper understanding of the concepts behind Cleveland's new offensive system. He noted how far Sanders had come in a short window since voluntary minicamp activities began. These were not empty compliments designed to keep a young player confident. These were the specific details that separate quarterbacks who can run a college offense from quarterbacks who can survive and succeed in a professional system. The ability to read a defense quickly, to understand where the pressure is coming from, which receiver is likely to come open, and how to move from a primary option to a secondary option without hesitation, is exactly what young quarterbacks typically struggle to develop. Sanders was apparently developing it. Monken made that observation clear without being prompted, without needing to protect any old draft investment, and without any obvious political reason to single Sanders out for praise. Separate reporting from around the same period described Sanders as adjusting well to the new offensive system, picking up the terminology, understanding the protection schemes, and moving through the progression of reads with more comfort than some observers anticipated after a rocky rookie campaign. Meanwhile, the broader conversation around Gabriel shifted noticeably. His name was no longer appearing in discussion about the starting competition. Instead, reporters began writing about whether Cleveland would pursue a trade, whether his value had dropped to a point where teams might simply wait for him to be released without giving anything up, and whether the Browns would ultimately keep him as roster depth or move forward without him entirely. That is a stunning shift in narrative for a player who entered the league as the higher draft selection and received the first meaningful opportunity. The scoreboard that matters. What makes this story worth telling is not that one side was rude online and another side was polite. It is the way the football decisions ultimately reflected what actually happened on the field and in the meeting rooms. Sanders spent his rookie season absorbing criticism, handling pressure that most fifth-round quarterbacks never experience, taking hits in front of a national audience, and learning what NFL defenses look like at full speed when there is actual consequence attached to every decision. He made mistakes. He turned the ball over more than a competitive quarterback can afford to long-term, but he was developing in real time under real pressure. Gabriel spent part of that same period dealing with public commentary from people around him that kept drawing attention to the wrong conversation. He was not starting. His fiancée was posting captions about team losses. The word entertainer was bouncing around Cleveland sports radio. None of that helped anyone evaluate whether Dylan Gabriel was actually ready to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. By the time Monken arrived, Sanders had game reps, genuine development, and a coaching staff with no old loyalties evaluating him with fresh eyes. He had done enough in his limited opportunity that the new staff considered him a real candidate. Gabriel had limited reps, a rough practice report making the rounds among reporters, and a trade market that was reportedly close to non-existent. Shedeur Sanders never needed to win the social media argument. He needed to win enough trust from the next coaching staff to stay in the competition. Quietly, while everyone else was debating captions and quotes, that appears to be exactly what he did. The competition is still open. Now, none of this means Sanders has officially won anything. It is important to be clear about that. Deshaun Watson is still in the picture. He carries NFL experience, a massive financial commitment from the organization, and a contract that Cleveland cannot simply pretend does not exist. If Watson is healthy and functional, the Browns will feel significant pressure to see what they paid for. That reality does not disappear because a rookie had a strong spring. Monken has talked about wanting clarity at the position by the time training camp gets moving. But coaches also understand that one strong practice, one unexpected injury, or one disappointing week of film can completely change the direction of a competition. Nothing is locked in until it is locked in. What has changed is the conversation. A year ago, the discussion around the Cleveland quarterback room often centered on whether Sanders deserved to be there at all. Now he is being discussed as a legitimate starter candidate by the new head coach. Gabriel, who was positioned as the safer investment, is now fighting to maintain his roster spot. Training camp will provide the next chapter. Every rep, every depth chart update, every comment from Monken's staff will be analyzed by a fan base that has been watching this situation develop for over a year. And whatever happens, fans will remember every prediction, every caption, and every confident statement made before the results came in. The quarterback competition in Cleveland is still unresolved, but the direction of the momentum has shifted in a way that was hard to imagine when last season began. Shedeur Sanders came into the league as an afterthought to many, played through one of the rougher rookie environments you will find anywhere in the NFL, and came back to the offseason with the new coaching staff publicly calling out his growth in specific, meaningful terms. Dylan Gabriel came in with the higher draft position and the earlier opportunity, and now finds himself on the outside of the real competition, wondering whether Cleveland wants to keep him at all. In the NFL, the depth chart is the only statement that actually counts. If you made it this far, you are exactly who this channel is built for. Drop your prediction in the comments right now. Does Shedeur Sanders win the Cleveland starting job, or does Deshaun Watson's experience and contract pull the decision back his direction? And what happens to Dylan Gabriel? Trade, release, or does he find a way to stick around? Subscribe to a Sports Zone USA and hit that bell so you do not miss a single depth chart move, training camp report, or quarterback update as this competition heads into the summer. We will be covering every development as it breaks. This story is far from over.